Okay, so this whole episode I'm gonna try to go without leaning on the armrest because as I ed- I'm already fing up. As I'm editing, it drives me crazy watching me just lean, talk the entire time. Try to stay in the middle, but then it doesn't even line up for like the background and because behind me, what I usually block is just like my computer and stuff. So I'm trying to fix a bunch of stuff as I'm going. But welcome to episode 13. What's up? I'm gonna try to go as long as I can without having to edit stuff around. I'm still trying to work on that as well. I do have a full podcast though. I have a full list of stuff ready to talk about. I fucked up last week. I didn't, well, actually, I don't know if it was the last week or the week before that, but I've not been posting episodes weekly. And I figured it's probably for the best, in my opinion, if I want to have like a good episode released, I have to want to talk. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I haven't even been like wanting to make the podcast, but then I'm like, all right, it's Sunday or Monday, let's film it. I have to want to be able to get on here, talk, say some stuff, make it make sense, etc. Like today. So, first, I'm gonna start it with, I guess it's gonna be of a ramble tone, is what I'm gonna put it under, but I feel weird just saying like I'm rambling whenever I talk about complex theories, but this is what I've been working on for complex theories mainly for like the past month, I would say. I made a comic series called Theory of the CTZ Verse. Look at me, I'm leaning on the armrest already, man. I'm telling you. So, and then I just switched to this one. Goodness gracious. All right, that's the first edit. Hopefully, there's no more after that. I'm just gonna try to stay stable right in the center. But theory of the CTZ verse is pretty much, it's not supposed to be like comedy based. It's not supposed to have some huge story off of the first launch. I just wanted something that I can put my efforts into creating that's out of the box. It's something different than we've usually done. It's creative. It'll catch attention if for the people who are interested in that. And I workshopped it around to a few homies where I was like, look, how does this look? Does this look like presentable? Does it not make sense? Is it stuff I should add on to it or take away? Let me know your opinion. They said the final edit that I made, it made sense, like understanding it wise. That was the goal. I just wanted to have some sort of project that I could put out on the complex theories. So now we could start posting other stuff afterwards, and then we're back to the normal program, if that makes sense. Because we went inactive for so long where, like, if I just picked up and was like, all right, let's just get back into it like nothing happened, it'd be weird to me. Plus, we've done the restarting so many times to where, like, it feels repetitive to be like, CTZ 3.0, ha ha ha, we're gonna do it this time. It's just, no. I have to have it feel genuine, and the only way I can do that is, oh, there's edit number two. I just hiccuped. But the only way I can make it feel genuine is if I can do something creatively that I'm actually interested in, post it. I don't care how it's like received. Like 90% of the stuff that I post, I don't care how it's received. I just want it out there so I can build off of my future stuff. Except the haha lineup page, that's the stuff where I'm like, I want the best clips. But for this example, I didn't want this to go like viral and start like some crazy comic book series. My goal is to have this on the page to where now I can start posting a gaming montage. And then if you scroll back, it's not like, oh, they just went inactive for a long time and then they just started posting a montage. It would look like, oh, okay, they went active for a while and then they came up with a story to make sense of being inactive. And then now they're back to the regular scheduled program because that was the end goal of making it look like kind of fresh, I guess. So all of that to say, it dropped today, Monday the 14th. I put it on all platforms. It's on Twitter. Well, I actually just lied. It's not on all platforms. It's on majority of the platforms that we have. So it's on Twitter. It's on Instagram. It's yeah, I post all of it on Instagram. I post the cover of it on Instagram too, which I'll probably add all of them just like throughout the video not throughout the video, but throughout this segment beside me. But the cover is the one that I'm most proud of because I wanted it to look like an actual comic book cover. So I was like, okay, this is cool. But then I was debating if I wanted to make like posting it onto TikTok, because if you just post like pictures on TikToks in like a slideshow, I don't know, I just feel like that's a little weird. Plus, you can't really read it that well. You have to be able to zoom in to read some of it, and zooming in on TikTok is like some people, I don't even know if they would do it. So they would just look at it and be like, "Oh, okay, yeah," and just swipe. So it's not worth it. But I was gonna make a video where so you're looking at the like say the number one, for example, the first comic. If you're looking at the comic and then there's the first square, I would have it show it from the far, like the full layout. Then it would zoom in to the first box, and then it would slowly pan to the second. It would just go in order from all of them. But then as I was making that, I was like, I don't know if, and I don't know how to say this without sounding like a dick. People on TikTok, they're not, most of them, I should say. All right, there's at number three. Fuck, if I can end this podcast without 6 edits, I will be happy. Okay, I can, so far I can count them on one hand. That's not bad. But I'm gonna drop that topic because I was about to sound like an asshole. So theories, not theories. I named the mascot Theory, and I was explaining to Michael and Abby this earlier. I named him Theory because the organization is called Complex Theories, and then it's spelled theories like this because if you type in on Google complex theories, but like the way theories is supposed to be spelled, it's going to give you some crazy equations or just some crazy complex theories scientifically. But if you type in complex theories the way I spell it, we're the first thing that pops up. Our website, we have a bunch of, just branding wise, we have a bunch of stuff that pops up for us. So I was like, okay, that's a good idea to keep that later down the road, aka now. Me and Michael talked about it today also. Kind of wish I would have changed it just for like, I don't know, rebranding purposes. There's a few reasons, but we're here. It's Theory, Theory is his name. It's not Theory as in like how I spell it. It's the actual how you spell theory, just for the play on words on, to let people know how to actually pronounce this. Because I've had people be like, complex, how do you say the last part? And I'm like, yeah, it makes sense because it's not how you spell theories, technically. It's just one of those things where it's like, I spelled it like, well, not I, we spelled it like this, and we're kind of just saying how you pronounce it. Sorry. But if you've heard anyone say anything, or if you know anything about us, you'll know. So hopefully the Theory is, aka he's our mascot, the CTZ mascot. It's a Theory. Hopefully that'll kind of give some people the benefit. And I'm leaning on the armrest again. I just instinctively go to it, man. It drives me crazy. Sitting in the middle. But hopefully him being named Theory will lead people to be like, oh, okay, theories, if that makes sense. But it's out live. It's on our website too. All of our ats are at CTZ Esports, and our website is complex, THEORZZ.com. If you want to read them, feel free. There's 4 of them. It's leading up to a next drop for, the date is at the end of the 4th one. Tomorrow, aka the 15th, I'm going to release a time-lapse little preview, sneak peek of behind the scenes of that I made creating it. I have a lineup of characters that I'm trying to debate who I want to have in the future, or like who I want to have in like montages, have little cameos of other characters from mascots. So I'll probably have like a little poll or vote on the social medias for those. And that's mainly it for the CTZ topic wise. But again, I'm the owner of it. I'm gonna yap about it. I'm sorry. It's part of the shit that I love doing. So if you don't want to hear this, I mean, I'm surprised you're even here listening to me. And then now we're gonna lead straight to card review because it's been a while since I've reviewed a comedy show from like the shows that I've worked compared to what you've heard me talk about. And one of the ones that sticks out the most is, I'm trying not to lean on the armrest, Sam Talent. He was here this weekend, and dude, let me tell you, it was one of those shows where like I was going into it I wasn't sure because I know he's not local, but he's kind of local. He calls his home club the Go Bananas here. Well, not here, but local at Cincinnati. He's talked to a bunch of, and he's followed by and following a bunch of local people that we're friends with at the club. Like, I can't even start to list them because whenever I saw his profile, on Instagram. It shows like this person's followed by this person plus this many others, and it has like an amount. His was at like 90, and that's something a long time I realized that popped up, and I saw there's one person that I'm not going to say on the podcast who I over the years it's just always been like 70 to 80 people, and I haven't had anybody else that whenever I would go on their profile I would see it that high, and I'm like, that's crazy, we have that many people in common. It's so nuts to me that the only other person that I've seen higher is Sam Talent. And I could look through because I was like, that 90 is insane. I was scrolling through, it was all comedians. And I was like, yo, that's insane that, first of all, the fact that he can have 90 something comedians, but that means he is a comics comic. He is the ideal person whenever a comic is wanting to watch comedy or wanting to get entertained. He is who they go to. He's the definition of a good time for a comedian. That sold it for me because I was like, yo, that 90 something people, that's insane. So, all of that being said, the comedy show came around. I didn't know much about him prior. I watched his Rogan. I've seen him on podcasts. I watched his special because I posted a clip on 𝙎𝙊𝘾𝙄𝘼𝙇𝙎. So all these small things here and there, but I haven't been watching his comedy for years. I haven't been watching any of his stand up for years. Anything that I've watched was just recently picked up on. And like Greg at the comedy club, he was so excited for him. So that whenever there's someone at the comedy club that is also like amped for someone to come, it does two things. One, it makes me a little nervous because I'm like, all right, my hopes are a little high. My feet could be swept under me and it could be a shitty weekend. Or two, it could be like, oh shit, he's hyped for a reason. It's going to pay off. It's going to be a fantastic weekend. And this one was the second one because not only is Sam Talent actually just like super funny, sharp, he's good, fantastic at crowd work, he's quick on the spot, but he's such a good fucking guy. It is insane to me. Like there's me and I think it was me and Nick Higdon or me and who was it? Is edit number? No, I'm not. I'm gonna leave that in. You know what? I'm gonna leave that in. But I'm gonna say it was me and Greg. No, it was me and Greg or me and Nick. I'm not sure which one. There was a lot of conversations about how good of a guy he was that weekend. It was insane because it was just my first time seeing him, and the same for Greg. But it was our first time, like, I guess not only seeing him, but interacting with him, talking to him, being able to sit and multiple days in a row have a conversation with them. That changes your perspective on somebody rather than just like, oh, I've seen this comedy show, or I've seen him in person, but I was fourth row back in a comedy club. There's two different perspectives. So I was talking to Nick or I was talking to Greg. I'm not sure which one. And we were talking about how crazy it is whenever you're in one of our perspectives and you could see, and I might have talked about this on the podcast before, you could see the people come and go, and the differences in comedians is mind blowing. Some of them are not necessarily assholes, but they're not nice. Like they're shut off. They're to themselves. If you try to ask them a question, they'll walk away. They'll give you like if you do get a response, it'll be very just like or nope, nope. It'll just be very like not vocal responses, but just like shaking their head or just like a thumbs up, and which that's not necessarily, I guess, because you could say that's not like he's just in his head before the show and he's not trying to get in the out of the groove or whatever you would say, like throw off his mojo or whatever. Even after the show, like at the end of the night, they would still act like that. That kind of, I don't know. Once you do that, that kind of puts you on the list of like, okay, you're not an asshole, but you're not a people person. And a comedian not being a people person, before I started working at the comedy club, I would have thought is insane. Now that I have been working there for some years, it makes sense because I guess they just need the like affection and like the confidence booster from the people, but they don't want to give it afterwards, or they don't want to talk about like anything comedy related. They don't want to have human interaction after they've gotten the boost. They just want to go do them in behind a closed door. And some that's just how some comedians are. And then you have on the polar end of the spectrum the Sam Talents or the Ian Baggs, which that was the vibe I was kind of getting the entire time. It was like an Ian Bag vibe because anybody on their level, they're so genuinely nice that on the second day I wasn't even expecting to have a conversation with Sam Talent. I was inside of the showroom watching the stage. The crowds were fantastic all weekend, and so I was kind of just like, man, you know what? I mean, like, I don't really have to stand in here. I'm gonna go outside and vape. Really, stood up, I went out into the lobby. I see Greg and somebody else talking at the bar. Sam walks down like out into the main lobby area from the green room, and then it's nobody in there but us. And I was standing in the lobby. I was vaping because I was like, I'm not going outside. It's too cold. The wind. So I was just standing in the lobby and I was vaping, chilling there. He walked up and started a conversation. There wasn't a time where I was planning to have like, because there's a lot of comedians where before the show starts or before the weekend even, I'll preemptively get the thought in my head of like, oh man, I want to have this conversation with this guy because that'll be a good conversation. Oh man, that'll be a fun time, or I'll learn something or something of the sort. I wasn't necessarily having that with Same Talent, but I was walking into it with like I don't know what I would talk about really, like you know, uh, relating to him wise, other than the fact that he's local. So not local, but he knows local stuff. So or I guess I should say regional, but he started a conversation with me, and I was like, "Yo, first of all, you're cool as shit," because it was just like a random, genuine conversation about comedy. And then Greg walked up. He said something about a headshot on the wall. He likes the thumbs up again. It's coming back. He said something about Mike Armstrong. Mike Armstrong having the same act. I think he said that he despised comedy or something like that. And I wanted to put out the fact that, well, yeah, it's because he's like James Gregory. Because we also have a headshot of James Gregory on the wall, which is, if you don't know, R.I.P. He's a comedian a legend that passed away, a regional legend, I should say. But I, this is fucked. I pointed at the wall, and oh man, I don't know if I should say this on the pod. Oh fuck it. I pointed at the headshot on the wall and was like, well, yeah, it's because he has the same set like James Gregory, where they don't change it. Once you don't change your set over time, over like the period of who knows how long you've been doing comedy, you probably start to hate your set as much as the crowd, as much as you think the crowd does, pretty much. So, and if you are on stage thinking that they're hating this and you're hating it actively, it's just a bad time all around, dude. But before I can get that point out, Sam threw out a joke and interrupted that was so like behind the scenes but also like spot on about James Gregory that I was like, "Yo, you're one of us. This is fucking crazy." And not one of us as in like, "Oh, you like comedy and you appreciate stand up." As in, no, like you know the behind the scenes of like as a regional comedian and how he would act. So like that it threw me back a little bit, and I was like, "Oh shit, okay." So I just started talking like regional talk to him about comedy, because some comedians you can have a conversation with them about comedy, but if they're like an actual, I don't want to say this, but I am. If they're a real person and they're not just like some road dog or like some bot from like social media influencing, you have a conversation with them about comedy and they're just glad to have that conversation instead of the conversation of like, oh man, I love your videos, or oh, I've watched you for so and so. It's just like that's their little distraction. Whenever you're talking to a Sam Talent and you try to have those conversations, there's too vague, because it's, I honestly understand it because I'm tired of those conversations as well. Okay, that was the fourth edit. I'm almost to 5. Hopefully I can get it on track. I think 4 is pretty good so far though. But let's say you're a headlining comedian and somebody walks up and they're just like, "Oh man, what do you think about comedy?" And like, "What do you think about the room?" And how do you think the crowd is? There's a bunch of questions that they're so repetitive you would get over and over again. It just feels bland. It's not worth like making it like notable, like, "Oh yeah, he'll remember my face for that." And that's just my opinion. Now keep in mind, and whenever he started I just leaned on the armrest again. Whenever he started the conversation, it was like about a regional comedian. I was like, okay, so now I'm gonna start talking to you about like him. I wanted to talk to him about Donnie Baker, but then he had to go on stage before that because I always love getting people's opinion, like comedians' opinion on Donnie Baker, especially if they aren't like a regionally known. Like if this is the first time they've ever been to the club, or this is the first time I've ever heard of him. I'm like, do you know who Donnie Baker is? And the majority of them don't, but hey, that's part of the game. That's part of it. So I didn't want to bore him with like some same old questions. We had a good conversation. The shows were fantastic, really. We had William McKenzie, Will McKenzie. He came in for a guest set. There was Nick Higdon. He was the host. Nathan Lund was the feature, and of course Sam Talent, the headliner. And I said the crowds were fantastic earlier. I don't want to say they were like completely fantastic, 100% everyone, because it's inevitable that you have just like the group of people that come in and they're not there for that specific comedian, or if they are, they just don't know how to behave in public, which is crazy, but it still happens. And hey, they were having a good time, so fuck it. But yeah, that's probably it for this review. I can't say any really bad thing about Sam Talent, and there's been a while since we've had a comedian at the comedy club that I haven't been able to say a bad thing about. Just like not like talking shit, but just a gripe I have against them of like, oh, they did this and that's disrespectful, or they did this and that shows that they didn't really care that they were there, or they did this, which shows that they weren't really excited to be on stage and that they didn't have much enthusiasm. And those are those little things that I know. I don't like have a stain against them now. It's just next time they come back, I'll remember. I'll be like, I wonder if they do the same thing. And if they do the same thing again, that's when I get the stain going. And I'm like, okay. This guy spit on the floor, and then last time he came, he was just as much of an asshole. He just didn't spit this time. Okay, I see. Let's see how it goes. But, anyways, to transition to the next topic, it's gonna be, I actually remember, but it's kind of like the first segment where there's a little stipulation to it. Like, these aren't old stories, so I actually remember I stupidly named it my segment for story time. But if I would have forgot these stories already, that would be so embarrassing. I would have to knock it off a little bit on that. Anyways, the first one just had me so like weak because it was a genuine like it was a man moment. I feel like it was something that just a typical guy would do, and I don't think he knew I was in my car. But I was sitting outside the comedy club on my car, on my car. I was in my car on my phone waiting. Had like 10 minutes till I had to go in, just scrolling through Instagram or whatever. And this truck, big old truck, the parking spot I was in, there was 3 spaces, and I was in the left one. The far right one was taken, so the only one that was open was the middle. And this big old truck pulled past me, started to back in, and I was like, "What the hell?" But he backed in, and then I didn't see the passenger door open, but I heard a door close, and it was the driver door. And I didn't know this at the time. I just heard a door close, and I was like, okay, they're probably just going to like Palmer's or something. And so I just kept on my phone, and out of nowhere, all I heard was, "Hey, man." No, he said, "Hey, buddy, you from Canada?" And I looked up and I was like, "What the fuck? Hey, buddy, you from Canada?" I was like, "Is he talking to me?" I looked in the rear view mirror. I looked up the side mirror, and I was like, "What?" And then I see his face looking directly past me, like past the street into the field where there's like a huge drop off. There's just a goose just on the side of the road standing there, just fucking. And he's just standing there looking at the goose, and he's like, "What's up, man? How you doing?" And then he's waiting on his girl to get out, and he's just sitting there bored. And he looked, and he was like, "I'm gonna talk to this goose." And he for sure didn't know I was there, because he had a small conversation with the goose as he was just sitting there looking at him, like, "What the fuck is this human talking about?" And then his girlfriend got out of the passenger's door, and then he immediately stopped, turned to her, and they went on their way. And I just got weak. I was like, that is a genuine, that is something a lot of guys have probably done once in their life, where it's a not like your dog or your cat or something that like you would just like talk to, but just like a random animal. You're just walking, and it's just sitting there, and you're just like, "What's up, dog?" At least once. It just had me so weak, and I was like, "Damn, okay." But then the second story, this one is less funny. And this one is just as recent, though. If anything, it's more recent because it just happened. I was spooked. I was very scared. And to set it up, Michael and Abby were leaving to Louisville to go babysit. So they just got a new dog, a Labrador, I think. And his name is Frank. Well, they asked me if I can house sit for him and watch Frank. And I was like, "Yeah, I got you." Not knowing what was all involved. I just thought I was gonna be going over and chilling, taking him out, feeding him. What's up? So went over there. I got his medicine routine, and I was like, "Oh man, bro's on meds," but it pays off because brother was sleeping the entire time, and I was like, "This has to be just like whenever you medicate a child, and instead of having like ADHD crazy running around, he's just sitting there like, 'What's up? All right, I'm ready to do work.'" It's pretty much the equivalent, I feel like. Anyways, we were going over the medicine routine, and I was like, "All right." I it kicked in my mind. I was like, "Oh shit, I've had a dog in forever, like to actually take care of." Because I got Toby upstairs that I watch, but watching Toby is like watching like a 15-year-old. It's like I mean, you have to be there for like emotional. Like he has to hear some voices every now and then, so he doesn't just like start freaking out. But as long as he hears some voices, he's pretty fine. Thumbs up again, crazy. This OBS system or Apple, I don't know which one it is. Not Michael. Connor said it's Apple. He sent me the video and it said it was Apple, but I don't know. Anyways, time goes by. They leave. Well, Michael leaves. Abby was already gone, and I'm sitting there, we're chilling. He's, for the first, 20, 30 minutes, he's pretty restless, but that was just because Michael left, and it's reasonable. He got on the couch and he was relaxing. I was like, okay, this is going by pretty easy. There's nothing that, I took him out, no worries. And then I was like, man, I'm hungry. I'm gonna go get some Sonic. So I went and got Sonic. On the way back, I had my hands full. You know what I'm saying? I had a big old cup right here. I had a bag right here with a hot dog, foot long hot dog. That is important because I almost dropped it. And don't judge, it was a foot long. It was free. Okay. Shout out the Sonic app. So my hands were full, is what I'm saying. I went to pull out my key because I usually don't have a key, and I was like, "Oh fuck!" They were in my pocket, so last resort I had to pull my key out. So I already had a weird grip on the keys. I was unlocking the door, and this man Frank, where I guess he's been waiting on someone to come back already, and he heard me get to the door, and I guess I was like, "Ah, I have to get my key or something," or maybe I was like loud putting it into the keyhole or whatever. So he heard me coming in, Because as soon as I opened the door, I'm telling you, not even a second to spare. As soon as I open, I see his snout through, and he pushed it, and he just boom, gone. I was like, oh, my heart dropped. I was like, oh shit. Okay, well, so I pretty much opened the door, put everything down real quick, ran out, and I was like, Frank, dude, come on. And I started freaking out, and I was like, Frank, please. And I acted like I had a treat, and he started to fall for it, and then he was like, this man doesn't have a treat. And so he ran back, and every time he would come, I would not try to like grab him like that because that would immediately scare him, I know. So I would try to like be like, all right, come on, let's go back in. Or I would try to like trick him. And then after like the fourth time, I was like, all right, I have to get this man. So I tried to grab him like that, but then I scared him again, and then he bounced back even further, ran back, and I was like, oh no, I have to stop doing this. I was like, okay, I can't do it unless I have a guaranteed like opportunity to grab him. So he kind of chills out a little bit. He's just standing at the end of the breezeway, and I'm just like, oh shit. I ran inside. I know it was crazy, but I was like, because their door, you can't just like leave it open. If it's open and you let go, it'll just shut automatically. So I was like, I'm risking it. He was at the end of the breezeway. I was like, okay, hopefully if I shut the door, he'll just come to the door. I shut the door. I ran over to the table. I grabbed his treats, and I ran back to the door. Opened it. Brother wasn't there, but he was still at the end of the breezeway. And so I started shaking the treats because I was like, all right, I didn't have him before. You caught me, but now I do. And I got his attention, and I started to shake him, but I tried to go inside the door to be like, maybe I can lead him in. And he just walked in front of the door and was like, all right, give me one. So I've got one out, had one in my hand, and as I had it in my hand, I had my other hand just ready to grab. But what this man did, he's smart. He's young, but he's smart, man. I'm telling you. He nudged my hand with his like nose to make the treat fall. But then as he did that, I tried to grab him with it one hand, but it missed. And then he went swiped it off the ground and then just did like a 180 and just beamed. And I was like, okay. And I was like, I have to chill on the grabbing because it just scares him and makes him run away even more. So again, I was like, all right, unless I have a guaranteed opening, I can't grab. So I tried to trick him a little bit more. I tried to have a treat in my hand, and I just kept trying to lure him in, and it worked for almost a little bit. He would always get to just like the door frame, and then he'd just stop. And I'm like, oh, okay. He's a smart dude, man. He knows the ins and outs. I'm being tricked. So I was trying to figure out a way I can like grab him pretty much, and I thought I had it because I closed the door at this point. Because I was like, I'm not even gonna let him think that like I'm gonna bring him in. I'm just gonna let him think that I'm gonna like be able to hold him, pet him, and give him a treat. So I shut the door and I was standing in the middle, and I had a treat like not one. I probably had like 3 or 4 in my hand. They were just out, and I was squatted down. I was like, "Come on, man, what's up? Come on!" And I was calling his name, chilling. He was wagging his tail, all hype. And I swear I thought I had him. He was pretty, and he's skinny too. He was like almost right in front of me to the point to where whenever I went for him, I knew where I fucked up because he went to go get the treats. But then as soon as his mouth touched my hand, I put my arm over his body. And this dude just squirmed immediately up and just did like this weird twist 180 thing, jumped and was gone. And this time, instead of the end of the breezeway, he was gone. And I was like, oh, fuck. So, ran out, and I was like, yo, Frank, where'd you go? What the fuck? Turns out he ran behind the building, which I think that's where he ran. I don't really know, to be honest, because by the time I got to the end of the breezeway, which was, no lie, 9 to 10 feet, he was gone. So, he had to have busted a right and then gone behind the building. But he was gone for probably 5 minutes. And it was, whenever I say terrifying, that's an understatement because in my head I was like, how am I going to describe this to Michael and Abby on being like, oh yeah, I can watch Frank, no problem. Oh, by the way, first few hours I lost your dog. I'm sorry. But I was walking around with the treats, like shaking them, like, Frank, come on, Frank, doing all the calls, just looking everywhere. And I couldn't see anybody. And there was just this poor lady that was probably scared shitless that there's just some mean dog on the loose because I'm frankly frantically walking around with the treats, trying to find them real quick. And she's got this dog like this big walking around. And I'm like, oh man, I feel so bad. But I'm looking, can't find him. Eventually, I walk over to the door and I'm like, all right, let me try to like open it, close it one more time. And maybe if he's around, he'll hear it. Do it, nothing. And I was like, okay. Went to the back of the building, but looked, didn't see anything. I was like, fuck. And as I looked back to the main part of the breezeway, but keep in mind, I'm in the back of the building. So there's now instead of 10, it's like 20, 25. I see this man just look over around the corner. And at this point, I know that Michael's neighbor, the one in front of him, is sitting on her porch. And she's probably like, oh, well, there's a dog loose. And I know she's sitting there. I see that man peep around the corner. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And I'm like, Frank. And I start to get hyped. So I'm like, oh, say less. He's not fucking lost. But then I'm like, okay. I have to play this smart because he just juked me like 3 times. So I do the treat shaking. He pays me no attention. Looks over, acknowledges that there's a woman sitting on her porch. And I was like, oh no, I saw him look, and he just instantly ran over to her. And I was like, fuck. I just ran as fast as I could to around the corner. And I was like, oh, thank goodness. He was basically just jumped on her, not like jumping on her, but like had his paws on it and was licking her. And she was just sitting there smoking a cigarette. I was like, thank you, God. Oh, I told her, I was like, I'm so sorry. I thought he was lost. And she was like, no, you're fine. I love dogs. And I was like, thank God you love dogs, because that could have been so bad. You just see a random dog that's decently sized running towards you. It could probably get pretty scared. But she was cool about it. And I just walked up and I just completely grabbed him. And I was like, I'm not even risking it. I just took him straight inside, put him down, and I was like, man, you almost gave me a heart attack. But he's all good. We're chilling. Gave him the medicine at the end of the night. Gave him it this morning. All the routine was on time. He was, also, whenever I walked inside from Sonic, I realized that man fucked up the blinds. I was like, oh my gosh, that's nuts. But whenever you have a young pup, me and Mike were talking about it before he left, that's part of it. It's like the equivalent to like the terrible twos whenever you have a child, but instead, in this case, it's a dog. But yeah, that's probably it for this. I actually remembered, because next it's a fun topic. It's the Drew's top 5, and the topics I wanted to do something a little different, something that's definitely, I guess it's always like subjective, where it's like it's just my opinion, it's my top 5, but this is like it's what you culturally know in movies, I guess. Some of it, some people might not know anything about. Some of you might know every single character. Some of you might have characters that that you think on your list is more of a top 5 than the ones I listed, but it is the top 5 villains. And I didn't really cap it to like what type of horror or scary movie, or not horror movie. What type of movie well, I guess horror or scary movie, but like just what qualifies as a villain. As I was trying to make this list, I was like, oh man, I guess that is a weird, thought. Because, like, for example, I'll start with number 5 is Scar from Lion King. That's a villain, 100%. I did number 5, but that was needed because I just got a drink. But Scar, he's number 5 because, like, it's the first, all of these on this top 5 list have shaped villains in like in the like movies beyond them, if that makes sense. So Scar, for example, like I'm leaning on the armrest. He used like manipulation and basically deception, and he was related to the family, but it was all between an animation, but it was old school, and then they brought it back. The storytelling, the backstabbing, and I was young as shit whenever I watched it. So that for sure might have some sort of aspect to it. But I was like, yeah, I'll put him at number 5 because I love the Lion King movies. And Scar always has like, if I hear like I it's one of those things where I don't know it from the heart, but if I hear it in some sort of quote randomly, or if I read it somewhere, like if I'm watching a TV show and someone quotes a thing, I'll be like, oh, I think like that was something that was said like by Scar or so and so. So it's one of those memories. So I was like, that's a top 5 worthy. And then we have number 4, Michael Myers. And this one, this is why I was a little confused, like not confused, but I was conflicted on the villain mindset because he is also for sure a villain. I mean, 100% a villain. But he's the only one, not the only one, but he's the main horror character that like I was actually scared of as a child. Like whenever I would see like the Edward Scissorhands or like the Freddy Kruegers or stuff like that, Jeepers Creepers, I wouldn't be able to base it in reality and like get scared from it. I would be able to get like jump scared and like stuff like that, but like the actual like mindset of the character wouldn't really scare me because I was like, okay. The only thing I would do is like if I fall asleep and start seeing that motherfucker Freddy Krueger, then I'm gonna start to get nervous. But until then, I'm chilling. But Michael Myers is like, dude, this guy I could have like done him wrong in school, and then 3 years down the road, he can pull up and be like, I'm fucking big and fucking I'm ready to kill and blah 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 blah, crash out. It was just, I saw the reality in it, and the movies were just scary as shit. Let alone, so that Michael Myers for sure stands out. Okay, so and then number 3 is, now we start to get to where I was on the fence for all of them because I love these next 3. The second one I didn't even start loving until recently. But number 3 is Joker. He's the only villain that, to this day, there's a scene that like it's just engraved in my mind because I saw it too young of an age, where he's like, I don't know if he's interrogating somebody or if he's just talking to a group of people and a dude, but they're all at a desk and Joker's behind him, and then he has a pencil and he takes the dude's head and he smashes it down on the pencil. And it hurts me just to even say it nowadays because I'm fucking queasy with gore. But that is engraved in my head, that scene specifically, and I don't know why. But anytime I think of Joker, like I'm a few steps away from where, if I start wondering, that'll pop up. Just because like I saw it and I was like, oh fuck! I was like, that, it fucked me up watching it at the time, and I wasn't even like really like queasy with gore like I am now, but it fucked me up back then. So he's number 3. Plus, like just story wise, I mean, they kind of took him the left turn recently. I'm not fucking with the recent Joker, to be honest with you. But that's the risk once you do a live action and you take an actor and you're like, all right, you're the Joker now, and you're like, okay, well that didn't work. You're the Joker now. Ah, that didn't work either. Can you be the Joker but don't do what either of those two did, but still be interesting? He said, all right, I got you, and then it turns to a musical. But the overall, like in the comics, and like right here, for example, shout out Jeremiah Watkins. This is him as the animated Joker, and I can't remember what series, like Batgirl series or something. But he was the voice of any. Anyways, the Joker's number 3. And number 2, and like I said, I didn't really like. I wasn't hip on this one for who knows how long. I don't know why I did it. I randomly decided I'm going to uh watch all of the Star Wars movies. And so number 2 is Darth Vader. Let me tell you, the redemption arc that they made that man Darth Vader have is insane. Anakin Skywalker. Because I've always known of Darth Vader. I knew references, Like, I knew that he didn't say, Luke, I'm your father. I knew that's not the correct phrase that it was said in the movie. I knew the small details like that, but I never sat and watched all of the movies. Like, I never knew the full story of why Darth Vader did what he did and how he came back in the end for redemption. So, or like not in the end, but like in the end of his story at least. Anyways, I just went by and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, he's just like some evil dude, blah 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 blah. It's whatever. I finished the series and I was like, yo, am I supposed to be liking Darth Vader right now? I was like, this is actually, I don't know what I'm supposed to be feeling right here. But I fuck with Darth Vader. And anyways, enough to where it's number two. And I just recently started to watch Star Wars. And I'm debating if I want to watch the new series of Star Wars because like it's new characters. So pretty much everything I did was for nothing because I could have started watching the newer series and had the same effect probably with characters, but everyone else would have been just as new instead of me going back. But now my perspective is if I do decide to watch the new series of Star Wars, if there's any crazy cameos or something, I'll actually understand them now. That's my justification at least. So I don't think I wasted hours of time watching the entire Star Wars movies. Anyways, number one, this has to be a guarantee, right, for everybody. Now, I say that, and I immediately think of like three people that are probably like, no, actually, I actually don't like them, or I didn't find them interesting. But to me, just because they made them, not they made him, they tried to make him so relatable and so justifying, and it's a kind of almost redemption arc-ish, but some people are like, he can never redeem himself. What the fuck? And it's gonna sound lame whenever because I gave this back all this setup and I say who it is. It's gonna be like, really? But of course, the number one villain in my opinion, it's gotta be Thanos, dude. It has to be. Again, I'm not gonna lie. As it just came out of my mouth, I felt like a total dork. But I'm still standing on it. Where like, yeah, just he took the entire Avengers. He killed one of them, or I guess a few, just throughout the entire series of him being the villain. And then he tried to, not tried to, but he almost had somewhat of a redemption arc where he went to some planet after he did what in his mind was doing the right thing of eliminating half the planet so the other half can thrive. He went to his own separate planet and was like, all right, I'm just going to retire everything out, and that's everything. He's one of the characters where they can now go and reuse him for whatever arc because they killed his storyline. They killed it to where now Josh Brolin, I think that's his name, he doesn't have to have like, no, this is gonna sound fucked up, but if they need to, they don't have to have Josh Brolin be a part of the process for making a Thanos story anymore. Like royalty wise and like for the rights on him being the character, of course, but him physically there, that's not really needed because he's not in person on like even if he is, they can just have a second someone that comes in as like a stunt double or whatever, and then they could just green screen the face or CGI all that shit. They can put him in at any point down the future in like the Secret Wars or whatever future movie that they plan. The way they used him so far, the multiverse, the way they've made it to where he's came back and gone through time. I think there was a little bit where it was getting overplayed, but then they realized it was getting overplayed and they were like, let's overcorrect. Let's just get rid of him. And so now he's gone and they're bringing him back for, I think it is Secret Wars, to be honest with you. But either way, I think all of that it's justification enough for me to put him at number one. So it goes Thanos, Darth Vader, the Joker, Michael Myers, and Scar. And at this point, we've gone through like 6 or 7 edits. It's going downhill. Oh man, I did so well for so long too, but towards the end, once I started to describe my opinion on these villains, I was like, it's falling apart. But still, I feel good about that list. Thanos, Darth Vader, Joker, Michael Myers, and Scar. And I'm gonna end the episode off with shout out to a real one, like always. But this one is also different. Like almost every other segment, there's a stipulation. This one's a good stipulation though because there's two. Instead of a shout out to a real one, a shout out to real ones. Because shout out to Beth and David, bro. My aunt and uncle. And when we were chilling in the living room, and she just said something that blew my mind. She was like, yeah, there's times where we'll just be driving down the road and we'll have Drew talking over the radio, and I want to like text him something he said. And I was like, yo, first of all, y'all listen to the podcast? And I was like, second, that's crazy. Y'all just listening to while you're driving and I'm talking over the radio. It got me hype. I was like, oh, that's cool as shit. So shout out to Beth and David because plus just love them both. Love them, you know what I'm saying? Always been real ones. But did not know they were listeners. That is cool. I'm gonna have to think of a story that from back in the day that involved all three of us. Throw it into a future I actually remembered segment. But shout out to them, and that is it for episode 13 of the podcast. I'll see you in the next one.